right, today we are celebrating day 3 of Kwanzaa, and day 3 will be Ujima. Ujima, and
Ujima.
that is collective work and responsibility. And for collective work and responsibility, we've chosen 2 people. One is Ella Baker, and the other is a local favorite, Fred Hampton. I'll let ShaRhonda start with Ella Baker.
All right, so Ella Baker, the reason why I chose Ella Baker to talk about collective work and responsibility, one is that Ella Baker is someone we should all know, and we don't. She is just this remarkable, she was this remarkable organizer who started with the NAACP, went to SCLC, to SNCC, to also leading protests on the independence of Puerto Rico. She's lived it. That's her life, right? It's this idea of collective work and responsibility. And the reason why I thought of Ella Baker specifically is because her entire philosophy was that organizing solutions should be done by those that are being oppressed, right? Not by outsiders, not by other people coming in. And I think a lot of times Black people, we see this with other communities coming into, other groups coming in and telling us what we need to do to get better. Ella Baker saw that with not just white people or other people, but also like sometimes Black Northerners would come down to the South and try to tell people in rural Alabama and Mississippi what they needed to do. And she believed, and I believe this too, that it comes from this place of thinking that you know better than people, right? And so, we really don't, right? There's an amount of humbleness and connectiveness and collectiveness that needs to happen in order for us to move forward as a people. And Ella Baker understood that and knew that better than, I would say, almost anyone, right? That the work of liberation of Black people in Alabama, in New York, in Puerto Rico, in Colombia, had to come from the people that live in those communities. And it's the role of organizers, right? Not to be leaders,
right,
but to offer the knowledge and the skills, and if it's money, whatever it is we have, to offer that to people to help them liberate themselves.
Right, definitely. It's the skills and resources. So it's just helping people develop their own skill sets, but knowing that they are really kind of the architects of their own liberation. Being on the ground, they know what the issues are. So if, it's not always a one size fits all. And unfortunately in our community, we can kind of get caught up with people saying, well, what are the 3 things Black people need to do to blah, 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 or the top 10 list of whatever. Well, that might look different in Birmingham, Alabama than it does in New York. It might look different from Miami to Houston, Chicago to Los Angeles. And so it doesn't mean that we're not all striving and moving forward, but each community has its own individual needs. And Ella Baker is one of the people who really kind of put it out there, that saying that, you should be listening more than you're trying to tell people what to do, but just give them the ability to help themselves, right?
Yeah, and I think just to add to that is that we do, in our community, in our Black community, we enjoy public speakers, we enjoy leaders with
oratory skills.
Oratory skills, right? And that is important, but that's a part of the puzzle, right? That's a part of organizing. It's also important to have the people that know how to write, people who know how to produce, people who know how to cook, people who are cooking for the movement and doing copies and doing everything. And none of those are better. They're just different parts of the puzzle. And Ella Baker spent her life in every organization that she was in and trying to make sure that not only white people understood that Black people had the ability to solve our own problems and to create leadership and autonomy on our own, but also to some of the more moderate Black people who thought that the only way that Black people can get respect is if they were respectable, right? They would, if the only way that Black people deserve not to get shot by the police is if they were wearing a suit or whatever. And Ella Baker's like, no, all of us have dignity, all of us have worth, all of us have value, and we should be fighting for each other because we're human, not because we dress right or talk right or went to the right school. And so Ella Baker, just to me, is the best example of what that means. And her career, 50 plus years of a career of organizing, brought truth to that.
Right. And we also wanted to just put in someone who's a little bit more local, known by many, but still kind of, when you consider the impact that they've had, their name doesn't come up enough. And that's Fred Hampton, who's just right here locally in Maywood, leader of the Black Panther Party here, with the phenomenal work that the party did here locally, trying to use the local resources and to, in a sense, do much of that same thing that Ella Baker did, that, that it wasn't about one particular person, that it wasn't one individual doing it, but, Fred Hampton saying that it's all about the people, it's for the people, it should be done by the people. So to piggyback on what ShaRhonda was saying, that, yeah, there are some people who are going to be out in the front. They're going to be in front of the microphone. But then there are other people who are doing the research behind the scenes, just to make sure that we have all our numbers right, to make sure that everything is above board when we actually put out the facts, that we've proofed them ourselves, that we have people in our community who've made sure that everything is above board, that you've got people who, like she said, who are doing the from the cooking to the security, you've got people who write the speeches but don't say them. Then you've got people who their primary job is just to knock on doors and get the information out. So Fred Hampton is one of those people who he was always putting the people first, and not necessarily putting himself on a pedestal, but saying, how can we get the resources to our community, listen to our community to see what they want, and to give them what it is that the people say that they're in need of.
And I think for me, Chairman Hampton and Ella Baker are so inspirational. The reason I want to talk about them is because they were both committed to the idea of working with all oppressed people, right? And so as we move forward as a community, it can't just be bougie Blacks. It just can't be, college educated Blacks or Northern Blacks or Atlanta Blacks or Nigeria. It has to be all of us together, and understanding that our salvation, everything is connected, and that we all have inherent value, worth, and knowledge. And Ella Baker and Chairman Fred Hampton best embody that vision. And they often would say, Fred Hampton would say, like, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. And so that's what's important to us as we talk about Kwanzaa, is like, how do we make sure that we're doing the work of revolution building and building community, and not just
that we're not exalting individuals, so when you think about Ujima, you think about collective work, you think about collective responsibility, everybody coming together to do it. You've seen it recently in the Black Lives Matter movement, where people are, who's the leader of the Black Lives Matter, there isn't one. You can go to every city and they can have kind of their own agenda and what they feel is most important, whether they can be on one side of an issue or on the other side of the spectrum. Same thing with the Me Too movement, started by a Black woman, where people keep pointing and saying, well, who's the one leader? Who's this one person? And, we've often seen that it's beneficial for us not to have a singular individual who, because no one individual can really espouse all of our needs and all of our wants. No one individual can encapsulate everything that is Black America. So, if you have, people who are Black farmers, they might not be represented by somebody if the leader is in New York. You have people who are in the South. They might not say, well, I want this individual who, Yale and Harvard don't mean much to me. I want somebody from my local a junior college, because they know how it is on the ground. So when you think about, collective work and responsibility, we really want to accent the fact that it's so many people doing this work whose names you don't even know, and there's room enough for everyone.
There is. So happy Kwanzaa.